everybody. Jeff Katz back with you. Hope you're all doing well. And what we're going to see now is a bridge concept that, not dissimilar from the feed, was brought over from the original WRP outline to be incorporated into the underground. This is a quick sort of recap, sort of what got us here. Almost an event center type deal for you 80s WWF fans. Building to the grand finale episode, which will be the next episode, obviously built around PW3 and Stone, the Young Bucks, Nick and Matt Jackson, going for revenge against Nick Lovin as King and Brandon Howard as Dread. As we go now once again into our Crazy Joe Davola Fast and Furious little segment. And Joe Davola, in fact, if I remember correctly, was one of the guys who, we knew we were going to do this. And 1600, because he had gotten over so much, both with the audience at the taping and with everybody that we all liked him in terms of working with him. It was really a great group of guys in general. But 1600, and then his relationship with Hayashi, now that it had resolved, it became kind of a natural thing to give them this spot. And they both did a great job, and it's kind of a nice little sort of cherry on top moment, particularly for the 1600 character, who had really gotten a very nice response from fans as his story went along with this. Before we go further in the recap, I do want to take a second to talk about some sad news from the past week, and that is the loss of Daphne. It's a weird thing when you work around the business, or you keep relationships around the business. You almost become blasé at a certain level. So-and-so passed away. It becomes so depressingly frequent that you almost become cold and numb to it, because we've seen so much from the WCW crew alone. The Daphne situation made me really sad. I really liked Daphne. She came in after I was starting to phase out a little bit, but she was super tight with Shane Helms, who I was super tight with. So we would see each other socially in Shane situations. I believe, if I remember correctly, we hung out a bit at the Ready to Rumble premiere. And she was just a lovely human being. And I am so sorry for her family and for her friends. And this one stuck with me for a few days. I have no problem saying I had a massive crush on her back in the WCW days. I don't believe I'm alone in that situation. But I had a lot of respect for her work. She had a great energy to her as a human being. Great laugh, great smile. I will always remember her as a happy and up individual. And I just really was very saddened to see that. And I think, I saw Carl Anderson, who I quite like and who was Killshot in WRP, took some shrapnel for criticizing WWE's mental health program or whatever. But I do think that that is one of the good things they do. There's a complicated history, obviously, at WWE and the fate of certain wrestlers, not Daphne's case. But I do think that some sort of mental health services is a good thing for them to offer. And I don't fault Carl, obviously, for having complicated feelings there as well. So anyway, just rest in peace, Daphne. You will be very fondly remembered by a lot of people. As we return now to Nick Jackson in the S&M dungeon. That's an odd transition. Cutting his promo here, and really, as you can see, this recap, because of how the underground was structured, to the Google YouTube specifics of being sort of quick hit, aiming for younger attention spans, and really, almost a mix of mobile and desktop play as a business play for them. That you only have one match a show, and so there's really nothing else to build to in this event center other than the thing that's been building the longest and has had the most twists and turns, and that is the Stone PW3 storyline. And so we've talked a few times about the idea that when we started this, there was originally a draft where they weren't going to be brothers, and then it just became if you have them, you gotta lean into it, and particularly to have them end up in a situation where they're going to team, let's go all the way with that. And ultimately, I think that was the right decision. I think it would look very awkward in a lot of ways to have them paired together and kind of ignore the elephant in the room. It takes you out of the story, even understanding that this is a different universe. And I think, in a weird way, because of Marvel and DC and the movies more than anything, multiversal concepts are pretty clear at this point. I think in some ways I've only seen bits and pieces of the stuff that the Hardys did when they were doing like the TNA Borash pre-tape stuff, but my sense is that was sort of multiversal in a way. So I think this stuff is an easier shorthand to audiences now, and now to watch them play different characters, whatever, it's not a big deal. You accept the rules of each wrestling promotion or group's conceit or storyline basis, I think. And that's one of those things that comes with sort of the lifting of kayfabe in a lot of ways. It's one of the maybe the positives of the double-edged sword, because obviously I think there are negatives to it as well. And I wanted to put over Jillian's work in this because we talked a bit. If I remember correctly, I think she had a brother who had been a fan, so she had been exposed to it a little bit. But she was a really game performer in this as really the biggest outsider tossed into the middle of this weird subculture and having to find some sort of truth in terms of performance in it. And she did a good job, and I think that, we talked a lot about the idea that the whole premise for this, given the partnership with Awesomeness, etc., was to go CW or old school WB or 90s Fox with it. And she was really kind of tailor-made for that, and I think delivered. And I think you look at her here, she looks of that world and fits. And really, the storyline of estranged brothers, a woman potentially in the middle, and then coming back together, it's something you'd find very, very comfortably on an old episode of 90210. You could resolve this inside the Peach Pit. You'd have Nat would be the special referee in the Peach Pit death match, or the Peach Pit After Dark if you wanted to go for something a little edgier. Have the Goo Goo Dolls perform ahead of time. And so obviously here we go. This sort of the payoff to where this has all gone ultimately. The manipulations of King, sort of you thought was the promoter in the background. No, he's going to step in the ring ultimately, team up with Dredd, his henchman. Shayna now has gone full Sensational Sherry, and basically this is it. Battle for the jackpot and control of the underground itself. Stone, PW3, Liz in their corner, King, Dredd, Shayna in their corner. And we talk a lot. My storytelling philosophy is really simple. Keep it simple, stupid. And I think if you go back and watch this stuff from beginning to end, or even the way it's told through this recap here, that keep it simple, stupid philosophy, which I learned in 8th grade honors English class, or 6th grade, I think. It holds true, and it's a great rule to follow in whatever creative medium that you work in. I can't recommend it enough as sort of a guiding light. So we'll see you next time as we go to the grand finale of the Underground and see who will gain control of the Underground itself. You've watched wrestling before. I think you could probably predict.